Hello and welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be making a image gallery using Windows Form and C# programming language inside of Visual Studio. So it's going to be a similar process that we did with the last number guessing game. So in this one we're actually going to be importing some images over to save it in the resources and then use those to call the images over. Okay, so let's just take a look at how this actually works. So if I'm just going to go and click on start here. All right, so what we have here is a image, just a random landscape image, and you got the title, two buttons, a label in the middle here that actually explains about the image. Okay, so if I click on next, it changes over and the information on the label changes as well. Click next again, right, it does the same thing, and when it reaches the last one it refers back to the first image here. Okay, and then the same thing happens again when we click back. Right, so we're able to go back from where we are and able to go next. If we go back here, it goes back to the one before, and then this one, it goes to the next one. Okay, so this program is basically going to show you how to manipulate objects inside the Windows Form application, such as the picture box, and load images from the resources. We will also show how to load images from the folders and so on in the next tutorial. For this one, we want to understand how to actually import images into the resources folder and how to use that from here. Okay, so if we go and create a new project in Visual Studio, we can get started. Okay, so in this window, just click on create a new project. Okay, I'm going to pick my Windows Form app.NET framework from here. Click next, and I'm going to name this one image gallery app Windows Form. So if I can click on create here, so here's the empty project at the moment. So what I'm going to do is while the form is selected and the form is empty, let's go and actually go to the properties window. So mines are minimized, so if I can just maximize those, it might be slightly easier for all of us. There we are. Okay, so if I click on the form, you'll see all the options for the form opens up here. So right now I'm going to change the title of this one to say image gallery in Windows Form. When I press enter, it should change the text over here on the top, and that's what we actually want. So from the toolbox, so if your toolbox is hidden here, you can open it up, or if it's not on this side, you can always go to view and then find the toolbox and it should open up. So I'm just going to pin this for now because I need a couple of things. So I'm going to grab one button first, then grab the second one, and grab a label. Okay, and lastly get the picture box here. So I'm going to make the picture box bigger. So you got these anchor points, right? You can actually make it bigger and smaller. So I'm going to make it so it can show the pictures slightly larger on there. Okay, so with that being said, let's start naming these. So right now this picture box here is called picture box 1, right? As you can see, the thing that we explored earlier with the properties window is you have the drop down option to actually pick everything that we need to pick from here. So if I go and pick picture box 1, I can name this one to picture viewer. Okay, so that way it's a lot easier to read in the text. And then if I go and select button 1 from here, so this one's going to be the back button, so BTN back, like so. And if I scroll down to the text and change the text to say back, as you can see the text has changed on this button here. And then if I go and select the second button, this one is going to be BTN next. Okay, and then we're also going to be changing this one to next here right now. Okay, we've got one more element to set, that is the label. So if I can click on the label 1, so I see selects it over here. You can also click and select them as well, right? But I find it a lot easier to select it from the properties sometimes. So if I go here, and a couple of things I need to change here. So for example, this one's going to be called LBL info. So that shows the information about the pictures that we're showing on the screen. Secondly, it's going to be changed slightly. I think I'm going to just make it bold so you can read it a lot easier on the board. And secondly, we're going to set the auto size to false, because right now as it is, if we type a long string, so say a nice sunset, right, so as you can see it all wraps into one big line, and that's going to bleed over the buttons and sort of disrupt the layout that we have. So what we can do here is we can, if we set the auto size to false, okay, so then what we can do, we can define the height and the width of this, and it will also wrap the text. Okay, so if this was to be slightly longer, so if I can just copy and paste it in the end again, so it's the same thing, but just paste it a couple of times. So if you make it a bit longer, then as you can see, it wraps it inside of this edge there. Okay, so also what we can do is we can actually align the text to, say, where do we want it? We want it right in the middle, so you can have padding on both sides, so it looks better. Okay, and make that one slightly bigger maybe. Right, and I'm just going to delete that from here and just say info. Right, so what I've done here is I've just randomly saved a couple of random pictures that we can use. Okay, so it's just a couple of pictures of like landscapes. Okay, and what I've done is I've named them from 0, 01, 02, 03, 04, and 05, because we're only going to need to use 5 images. Okay, so first thing first is let's import the images over. Right, so I'm just going to right click on the picture box, and then I can say choose image. So if I go choose image, so here you've got two options. One is a local resource that you only import once. Another one is a project resource file. So the project resource file will get saved inside the resources.resx file, where we can use it multiple times by calling it. But if we use the local one, we can only use it once, and that's going to be only attached to the picture box that we choose. Okay, so I'm going to import it to the project resource file, not to the local resource. So let's go to project resource file, click on import, and then I've been to the folder before, so it's opened up the same folder. I can just select all the files here. So all of them are JPG files. Click open. And then as you can see, all the images have been now imported. Okay, so if I can just click on the first one and click OK. All right, so right now it doesn't show the whole image because the difference between the size of the picture box and the size of the image is quite large. So there are a couple of things that we can do. So inside the properties window, you'll see that there's something called size mode for the picture box. With the picture box selected, you can see find the size mode there. If you can't find the picture box, always select it from the properties drop down. Okay, so in the size mode, if I click on that, and then you got normal, stretch mode, auto size, center image, and zoom. So if I go to stretch image, so what the stretch image will do is it will stretch the image, the source image, right, over to the picture box size, and it will do it from the height and the width. So that could be good in this sense because the picture is taken in a landscape mode. But it could be bad in another sense where some of the pictures might look stretchier than what they should be. One of the ones that I prefer to use for this kind of app is the one called Zoom. Okay, so what the zoom does is it will keep the aspect ratio of the picture, so the height and width of the picture will stay in the limits of how the picture was taken initially, and then it will place it inside the picture box, so that way none of the parts are being stretched. Okay, and one other thing to check here is that if you look on the side on the project, if I can make that, put that down a little bit. On the Solutions Explorer right here, you have a new folder called Resources, and you can see the picture's been imported in here. Okay, and we also have the pictures links inside the properties. You go to the properties and then go to the resources.resx here, double click on that. Right, you should be able to see all the pictures that are here. So in here, right, so you can manually add or remove resources from this window as well, and anything that you remove won't be able to be used in the app obviously, but anything that we add will be available to us if we just go to properties.resources, and we'll see how to use that one in a minute. Okay, so hopefully that explains how to import images to the project and how to actually use it in picture boxes. Now it's time to add the events for the buttons. Okay, so if I can click on the back button here, I'm going to move that up a little bit. So click on the events. Okay, so we need a click event. So we're just going to call this one go back. So go capital G back with a capital B. Press enter, and that takes us to the code view where the event is now linked to the button. Okay, so now let's go to the next button here. Click again. So say go next. Okay, so the go next, go back is both linked, and we don't really need anything else because all the naming has been done for the label, picture box, and the buttons. Okay, so inside the code, we do need a custom function that's going to change the pictures for us. So we're going to say private void change pictures. Okay, do the brackets and then do the curly open and close curly brackets. Okay, so the way the functions are actually linked at the moment is these ones are linked to the button. This is the constructor for the form, right? You'll see that it's just loading up the initialize component, so that loads up the picture boxes and the buttons and so on for the form. And this function here is going to be responsible for changing the actual picture and changing the information for us. Now inside these brackets here, you'll see that this one here has got these arguments there that says object sender event, object sender event. So basically these are the arguments that the program sends back to the code, right? So to understand which object actually sent the event, right? And how to respond. So anything that we put inside there is going to be the response from the event that we have triggered ourselves. So if you go and click on the button, anything inside of these is going to trigger. Okay, and this one here is not linked to anything unless we actually call it. So we can actually put down here, for example, change pictures, right? And then if you do that, that's going to call this function right now. Anytime this button is clicked, it will call this function. Okay, so that's how we actually call a function. We've done that in the last tutorial as well, but in this one we're going to go one step further and add a argument for inside. So right now these are events, but this one is the function. So inside the function here, we're going to add an argument to say what we need for this function to work. So we need a integer inside this function. So it's going to be integer called, let's say, picnum. Right, so it's an integer called picnum, so it's basically can go anywhere between 1, 2, 3 or -1, -2, -3, right? And we need that because we have got 5 images, and in order for us to move from say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a lot easier to do so with the numbers. All right, so with that being done, let's go on the top here and we need to declare a global variable. So we're going to call this one picture number. Okay, and let's set picture number to 1 by default, so it's going to be the first one, right? Okay, and then if we can work on this one, it'd be a lot easier for us to understand how this actually links to the overall app. Alright, so in this function, instead of using if statements, what we are going to do is we are going to be using a switch statement that works similarly to an if statement. Both of them are selections. So that means that they look for conditions in the code and executes the set instructions from those conditions. So the way the switch statements work is we type in the word switch. Okay, after that you have your 2 small brackets. Okay, and then you have the 2 curly brackets after. So inside there we need to check which variable is sending us the conditions that we need. So in this case, we're gonna need the picnum that's being sent from this function. So we can put that here, picnum. All right, and inside of here, it goes from case to case. So the way it works is we type in. So if I just zoom in a little bit so you can see. So we can type in case, and this can be 1. So if this integer holds a value for 1, then we can do the following instructions for it. So we put the case 1, and then you do the little colon next to it. All right, and one of the other thing is we need a break. So every single case needs to be packaged like this. So anything inside these lines here will be the instructions that will trigger once this one returns to a 1. So if the pick number has a value of 1, everything inside of here is gonna be triggered. So what we need is for each case we're gonna load up the image. So for case 1, load up the first one, case 2, load up the second one, and then at the same time what we're also going to do is we're going to add the information for those pictures inside the LVL info label that we added to the form. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So say picture viewer image is equals to let's say properties, right? So that's the properties that's right there. Okay, let's say resources. Okay, and when we press properties dot resources, then when we put the other dot in there, okay, you'll see that it will come up with all the images that we have imported earlier. So you got your 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so in this case we're going to go with 1. All right, so that's that, and then obviously we can say lbl info.text is equals to, so that's going to hold the information for this actual image. So if I can just zoom out of it a little bit, then I can put the information in here. As I can say, this is the first image, picture of a very nice lake with the hills around it. Okay, so that's just a generic explanation of the picture. Okay, and then we can go to case 2. So this is when the integer changes its number to 2. We can put down the break here. Okay, let's say picture viewer again, dot image equals to properties dot resources, and then this, in this case, is going to be number 2. Do a semicolon, end of the line. And then let's go to lbl info.text equals to, okay, this is the second image, picture of a cottage, cottage in the lake with lots of mountains around it. Okay. So we don't need that line. Okay, now let's go and do case 3. So once again, do it after the number, it comes the colon, and then make sure you do the break. Okay, because until you put the break on there, it's going to show up with a little red squiggly line underneath it to say, you know, something is not right. So that's because it needs to have the break, so it knows when to stop looking for the information once it actually found its case. Okay, so say picture viewer dot image equals properties dot resources dot, and then in this case we pick number 3. I'll go to lbl info dot text is equals to, oh, do the semicolon in the end. Okay, so this is the third image. Looks like a nice green field, mountains, and the lake. Okay, now let's go to case 4, then do the break. Once again, go to picture viewer dot image equals properties dot resources dot 04, maybe. Yep, yeah. Okay, and then lbl info this is the 4th image. On the horizon. Okay, and then we'll do the case 5 with the colon. Okay, and the break. Right, go to the picture box viewer dot image equals properties dot resources dot, then we go to number 5, and we can say lbl info dot text is equals to, this is the 5th image. It has the nice red sunset and it reflects on the water, the clouds, and the mountains. Okay, make sure you put a semicolon in the end. I'm zoomed out a little bit, so it's just, you know, you have to go left and right a little bit, but that's fine. So after each line, make sure you got the semicolon. But after each one of these, make sure it's a colon, because that's the cases there. Okay, and now I think we should be ready to actually test out this function to see if it works. So what we're going to do is, because the picture box, the picture number here is set to 1, right? So we will, if we run this program right now, it shouldn't really do anything. rather than just load up the picture. So it's currently loading up the first picture, which is great, but it's not changing anything on the info, and obviously the buttons don't work yet. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to come down here and then say change pictures. Okay, so right now if we don't put anything there, it's going to show an error because what it's expecting is a integer to be passed into it. Okay, so you can put in a number, so I can put in a 3 right now, and if I click start, okay, the picture changes to the third picture. That is the third image. Looks like a nice green field, mountains and the lake, which is true. Okay, and then obviously you can also put in the fourth and then change that, and it will, you know, say this is the fourth image, a beautiful sunset on the horizon. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we're going to pass in this integer, right? Instead of typing the numbers in ourselves, we're going to pass in this integer called picture number, right? And then anything that's stored inside of this one will be changed here. So right now if we click start, it's going to start off with the first image, and it's also loading up the information for the first image as well. So the trick is when we click on the buttons there, we're going to change the number from the picture number 1, so we can add or remove from the integer. Okay, and then obviously if it goes between 1 and 5, right, so we just need to make sure that it sticks to 1 and 5, it doesn't go over or it doesn't go below 1. Okay, so that's the idea behind it. And now we just need to put in for the, let's go and do the back one and then do the next one after that. Okay, so go back. So what we're going to say here is picture number plus equals 1. So each time the go back button is pressed, sorry, this one's going to be minus equals. The next is going to be the plus equals. So each time the go back button is pressed, we're going to deduct 1 from that value. So imagine if it's 4, right? And then it's going to take 1, and you know, each time it's clicked, so it's going to be 3, 2, then 1. Okay, and right after that we also need an if statement here, so we can do the if statement there, and I just double tap. So if I just type in if and then double tap, it does the brackets and the small brackets and the curly brackets for us. So inside the condition here, what I'm going to do is we're going to say if picture box number is less than 1, right? So then we're going to want picture box number to be equals to 5. All right, so you want to go to the last image, so that way you can be reduced again. Okay, and then right in the end we're going to say change pictures and then set the picture box number variable here. Okay, so this is going to be the back one. So if I go to this one right now, okay, so right now it's set to 1 anyway, so if I click back, it'll go to the last one. Okay, and then obviously go back, comes to the first one, and then it goes back to the last one again. Okay, so this way the program has very little chance of crashing, because you know it can't find the image or can't find the actual picture and stuff like that. Okay, so if we go to now to the next one, it's going to be similar. So once again we're going to say picture box number plus equals 1. All right, and if picture box number is now greater than 5, so if we go above 5, because it's adding 1 to the picture box number, we're going to say picture box number is equals to 1. So we're going to reset it back to the first image. Okay, and says change pictures and then set the picture number inside of it. Okay, so that way now if it goes maximum, it goes reset to 1. If it goes minimum, it gets reset to 5. And then obviously it's running, it's checking the, sorry, it's calling the picture change pictures function, so which has got all the information here, and it's got the switch statement that kind of changes everything depending on what number is being passed in from here. Okay, so I click start on this. So if I go next, it goes to the one before. If I go back, it goes to the one before that. Oh, sorry, if I click next, it goes to the one after. If I click back, it goes to one before. So click next, click next. All right, the information is linked to the images and it's working just fine. If it goes to the end, which is the last one, click next again, it goes to the first. And then from the first one, if I click back, it goes to the last one there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.